What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Canadian Football Fantasy Fix for the Division Finals of the 2021 CFL Playoffs. I'm Ryan Coop here with your defensive preview to round out the positional previews for the week. If you missed it, go back, check out my quarterback, running back, and wide receiver coverage earlier in the week. Those are all out on the channel already. And stay tuned on Saturday. I'll have your depth chart updates for all four teams playing this week in pursuit of a trip to the Grey Cup. Help get you set to lock in your lineups. Four teams playing means four defenses to pick from. And let's dive into the options. And finally, if you've watched the other videos this week, spoiler alert, I finally have a green light option for you, and it is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers defense. Yes, they're expensive at $4,650, considerably more so than the other options, but they've deserved the green light after the way they've played all season long. You need 11.6 points out of them to get the full 2.5 point per $1,000 total, which is what I consider full value. They've averaged 12.1 on the year. And, take out the last couple of weeks where they were kind of resting a lot of guys. There were a number of weeks in a row. I'm looking at between week 7 and week 12, a 4 or 5 games where they put up their full value in a row there, including 3 games over 20 points. Last week we saw their opponent, the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Cody Fajardo threw 4 interceptions against Calgary. They were pretty sloppy with the ball. I think Calgary got home for a number of sacks as well in that game. And so I think the Bombers are an excellent play. And with it's going to be a near sold out crowd at IG Field in Winnipeg. That's going to cause some havoc. We saw the Bombers defense put up some big games against the Riders earlier this season. 13 points, 10 points in those 2 games. Really hold them, to a low-scoring game there. Yeah, I think this is a potential good play here. Hostile environment for Fajardo and the Riders to come into. Some big playmakers that have had plenty of time to rest for Winnipeg. I think they're going to come to play and have themselves a big game here and be worth your fantasy lineup consideration. Next most expensive defense is the Hamilton Tiger Cats at $3,500. If you took them last week, you had a fine week of CFL Fantasy. By far the best option of the ones that played last game or last week. 18 points they put up against the Montreal Alouettes, a team that hadn't really given up a massive total this year. Huge plays, a couple fumbles, a bunch of sacks. I think they put 6 sacks on the board. Big day for the Ticats defense. They're a yellow light here for me. I think they are, one of the top options. Last week they put up 18. The week before they put up 15 against Saskatchewan. But in the 3 games before that, and 4 or 5 games before that, they were under-delivering on their value. They had a couple games of 5 points or less in that range as well. It's been kind of hit and miss for Hamilton this year. I think Toronto hasn't, given up massive totals necessarily all season. They had 1 week where they gave up a big one. But I think, Hamilton should be a good play, but there is a bit of caution coming into Toronto where the Argos are a pretty good team at home. I think Hamilton is, though, most certainly by far and away the second best option to pick from this week outside of Winnipeg on defense. And then there's 2 options I don't like. They're the cheap ones. The Toronto Argonauts at $3,000. You need 7.5 points out of them. They have the lowest average here out of everybody at 7.2. Last couple of games for them, 16 and 11 in their last 2. But in the 4 games before that, their highest total was 4 points. So, a couple good games down the stretch. One of them against a tired Edmonton team. I'm not sold on what we've seen from the Argos defense this year. I think given the other prices available this week, they are actually probably one of my lowest end options of the defenses here. I think maybe I'd put them ahead of Saskatchewan just matchup wise. But I do not love the play. I think if you're going to go with one of the defenses in this matchup, I'd rather go with the Ticats to shut down McLeod Bethel Thompson. Then I'd go with Toronto to shut down Jeremiah Mazzoli. And then finally, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, $3,000. Real cheap option for you here. Last week they put up 7 against Calgary. They put up 8 the week before, 7 the week before that. They've been hovering around close to, if not hitting full value down the stretch. They've averaged 8.4 on the year, and you need 7.5. That's a great average compared to what your full value threshold is. The problem is the matchup with the Bombers. You look at that play, that average that Winnipeg gives up to defenses, 3.9 points on the year, considerably less than anybody else. They don't give up sacks, they don't give up turnovers. I don't love the play of Saskatchewan's defense against that Winnipeg O-line, frankly, and against MOP candidate Zach Collaros. So this is how I see it playing out at defense this week. I think the Bombers are top option. I think Hamilton, is a pretty strong option potentially as well. They did, fall in a couple games to the Argos this year, of course, and so that's going to be a tough, close game for them. But I think still a play potentially worth having. And then you have Toronto and Saskatchewan, which I don't love either of those options this week. So that's your defensive preview. Go back, check out the other positional previews as well. You now have them all available to you on the YouTube channel. And stay tuned on Saturday, as I mentioned, depth chart updates for all 4 teams. I'll have that out here on the channel as well. I'll also tweet it out on Twitter at CooperTrooper42. You can find a link to that in the description. Do all the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you liked, what you didn't. If you have any fantasy questions, put them in the comments section or tweet them at me at CooperTrooper42. As I mentioned, link in the description. And if you want to play CFL Fantasy alongside myself and other viewers, check the video description as well. There's a link there. You can get in on the Canadian Football Fantasy Fix group over on the official CFL Fantasy site. Still 2 weeks left in the playoffs. Not too late to get in and enjoy the fun there. You can play alongside myself and other viewers throughout the rest of the playoffs. As always, thanks for watching. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.